Greetings! The last few videos on Maisha Kazini have pointed out that Kenya is structured to block us from thinking and to punish us for thinking. What is thinking? In other videos on this channel, we have explained that thinking is the mental processes by which we link things together and move beyond the immediate or the material. Thinking is a process of gathering information, discussing it with others, reflecting on it based on other ideas and experiences, and creating new knowledge. We cannot change our situation for the better without thinking. If we want a better society, we have to imagine it first. We have to imagine what it would look like and how we would get there. However, in Kenya, we have an elaborate culture that fights against thinking and blocks our access to a better world through the imagination. Without access to our imagination, we get intellectually stuck in a prison of hopelessness and apathy, and we believe that there is no point imagining or discussing a different world since we cannot implement it. In this video, we are going to talk about one of the weapons that we use against thinking. That weapon is passive aggression. Therefore, this video will answer 5 questions. 1. What is passive aggression? 2. What is an example of passive aggression? 3. Why are we Kenyans passive aggressive? 4. How do we resist caving in to passive aggression? And 5. How can we avoid being passive aggressive or protect ourselves from being harmed by passive aggression? So what is passive aggression? Passive aggression is when we avoid openly expressing negative feelings by using words or questions that sound innocent and even complimentary. In a normal conversation, where we are discussing issues that affect all of us, we expect everybody to contribute to the conversation. However, in Kenya, there are often people or institutions that try to block the conversation while pretending to participate in it. That is what I am referring to as passive aggression. Please note that many times, many people may not intend to be passive aggressive. Passive aggression is not based on intention. Most of the time, passive aggression is based on apathy and a sense of powerlessness. In Kenya, our history of repression and violence and of propaganda against thinking and the humanities has led many Kenyans to become cynical and convinced that thinking about things is a waste of time and effort and will amount to nothing. Sometimes Kenyans will bluntly say so, but other times we use kind words or we will call our pessimism speaking the truth. The effect of those words is to kill hope and enthusiasm so that we stop thinking and imagining that things can be different. When a bad habit like this becomes a culture, the bad habit becomes normal, and many people, especially young people, learn to be passive aggressive because passive aggression is the only way we have taught them to interact with others. Let's look at an example of passive aggression in Kenyan conversation. Imagine that you are in a conversation about our schools and you say that you believe that corporal punishment in schools should remain prohibited. In our passive-aggressive culture, it is not unusual for Kenyans to reply with this comment: "I did not expect that from you as a parent." On the surface, this statement looks innocent and affirming. However, what the person is saying is different from what they sound like they are saying, and what the person is saying is also different from what they are implying. If we take the person's words literally, the person is saying that they would not expect your view from you as a parent. However, It also sounds like they are saying that they hold you in high esteem as a parent, but they are really implying that you have disappointed them by not measuring up to the high esteem that they have of you as a parent. All this is designed to avoid saying the honest truth, such as, I do not agree with you, or I do not like what you're saying, or I am afraid of the implications of what you are saying. The problem is, when somebody is using such passive aggression, they are blocking thinking by shifting the conversation from the topic of discussion to the people in the conversation. How does passive aggression shift the conversation? If someone says, I did not expect this from someone like you, they are moving the discussion from the larger topic of corporal punishment to either you or themselves. They could be shifting the conversation to you because the comment suggests that if you are a good parent, you would not hold that view. If you fall for that trap, you will start justifying yourself by saying that you are a good parent, that you have good intentions, or that your view is based on your experience. But the conversation is no longer corporal punishment. It is about you as a person. Or they are shifting the conversation to themselves as a speaker. If you fall in their trap, you will ask the speaker, what did you expect from parents and how did I not meet those expectations? What can I do to meet your expectations? Whether the conversation is about you or the other speaker, the conversation stops being about corporal punishment. This passive aggression is common in Kenya when it comes to discussion of public issues. In the end, we stop discussing the issues that affect us and we instead shout at each other or cancel each other for having bad intentions or for being bad people. In other words, passive aggression operates by indicating that 1. You should stop thinking, 2. You are alone, 3. You are a bad person. Why do Kenyans use passive aggression to shut down thinking? It is because in Kenya, we personalize everything that we do. We do not see ourselves as social beings who have an impact on others and on our environment, but as individuals who are born as ethnicities, genders, and anything else which we have no control over. So we are unable to treat people's views as separate from whom they are and how they feel about us. In Kenya, we are caged in our identities, and so when people think or do something that goes beyond their fixed identities, we get scared and return them to their identities. Second, because of that obsession with identity, we think that disagreement necessarily means quarreling with the person or opposing authority. And because we are afraid of being alone or being punished, we shut down the conversation. Why do we fear getting into trouble? Because to have an opinion is a form of power. Having an opinion means that we spend time thinking of issues beyond ourselves and that we are bold enough to want to connect with others over those issues, and we think that our opinion on those issues matters. Why is holding opinions a form of power? Because power is the ability to influence people or things beyond ourselves. That influence includes ideas and words. When somebody holds a view on corporal punishment, it's a form of power because they have an opinion about something beyond themselves and they hope to influence it. In Kenya, our elites and our institutions are so insecure that they feel threatened by the mere possibility that we hold an opinion, whether or not our opinion agrees with the opinion of the elites and of the institutions. And why do we fear disagreement? We fear disagreement because if the discussions lead to the conclusion that something is wrong with the system, the next question would be, why is this thing still happening? And answering that question leads to the next question: what do we do to stop it? And because we have been made to feel so helpless, we find it easier to block thinking and tell somebody, I did not expect that of you. So when somebody makes a passive-aggressive comment like, I did not expect that from you, they are really saying, go back to your identity and leave authorities to decide what to do. How dare you have an opinion? How do we resist caving in to passive aggression? We have to confront the fear and hopelessness behind the passive aggression. To do that, we need to understand the following. 1, we have to understand that thinking is practical work. Thinking involves researching, learning, discussing, and reflecting, and all that is work. The fact that you may not implement what you think does not mean that the work you have done in thinking is useless. One reason why we Kenyans fear thinking is because we have believed the lie that work is only that which produces material results, especially money and concrete. We think intellectual and spiritual work are not work because that work is not a tangible thing that we can see or sell. On this channel, we have discussed what thinking is and why thinking is important work. Do not let anyone convince you that it is useless to think. A human being who does not think is a robot. 2, we have to understand that our feelings matter. How we feel has a direct influence on what we think. If we feel hopeless, we will not think. 3, we have to understand that institutions are made by human beings, not by nature or by God. Institutions are made by people based on certain ideas or experiences or philosophy. We need to stop treating institutions as natural or perfect. They are human creations and they can be wrong, but we cannot see that they are wrong if we cannot discuss them. Refusing to discuss institutions turns institutions into gods. 4, we have to understand that history matters. History allows us to go beyond the here and now, and going beyond the here and now allows us to see our problems as problems rather than as the way life just is. The more we know history, the easier it is to imagine the future. We need to read what happened before us and how other people thought and behaved because it allows our minds to see problems from a distance, even though we are facing the problem in the present. The reason why Kenyans are passive-aggressive is because we don't learn history and therefore we cannot step back and see things from a distance. And we don't learn history because we have been told that any work that does not produce concrete money or policy is useless work. 5, we have to understand that passive aggression, especially in conversations about social issues, is a war on politics. Politics is action that we, the people, do together. So if we are blocked from having conversations, we cannot find solidarity to act together. We therefore need to recognize that the goal of passive aggression is to stop us from thinking, from connecting with people, and from taking the appropriate action together with others. How can we avoid being passive-aggressive in conversation? The key to avoiding passive aggression is to continue discussing the issues and not divert to discussing people in the conversation. We can do this by 1, asking the person why they hold that view so that the person can explain their opinion. 2, We can be honest and admit that we may not have thought much about the topic, or that we may hold a different view, and we may like to explain why. Both responses require thinking, because to support a view, we need information and facts, knowledge of what others have said, and the courage to understand that disagreement does not need to kill conversation. How can we tell that a well-meaning comment is passive-aggressive? Spotting passive aggression often takes time, and a passive-aggressive comment hates being detected. The conversation may be long over, sometimes for days and even years, before we realize that it was ended by passive aggression. However, one sign that a comment was passive-aggressive is that it has made us stop discussing the initial thing we wanted to discuss and has left us feeling alone and accused. Another way to protect ourselves from the damage of passive aggression is to find or create a community who value thinking and are not threatened by ideas. That community could be a book club or a discussion group. As the group, you can study history so that you become aware that there is a world beyond our immediate or material circumstances and that our institutions are not God. Right now, we need to be deliberate in creating those communities because the passive-aggressive war on thinking dominates Kenyan institutions and public life. This channel, Maisha Kazini, exists to support your efforts. All the best.